My mother threw my bag at me and said, "Get lost, loser." No hug, no smile, just ice in her voice and a front door that slammed behind me like I never existed. If you dare to watch this, stay close. Have you ever come home hoping for love, only to be treated like a ghost? 10 years in uniform. 10 years of storms, bullets, sleepless nights, and folded flags. I didn't expect a parade, but I didn't expect this either. I stood there on the porch, snow catching in my eyelashes, heart refusing to beat the same. My brother looked out the window, then laughed. "She probably wants money," he said. And my father, silent as always, just walked away. So I did too. But not before I picked up the same bag I'd carried through war zones, now soaked in slush and my mother's venom, and got on the next bus to the only place that ever felt safe. Grandma Jean's. I didn't call ahead. I just showed up. She opened the door slowly, hands trembling. Her eyes found mine and they didn't blink. And then she said 5 words that crushed every piece of me. "Why didn't they want you?" I don't remember falling, just her arms catching me. That night, I slept beneath a hand-stitched quilt in the same room I once painted with stickers as a kid. She made ginger tea, read psalms out loud, and whispered, "I'm so proud of you, baby." But pride couldn't patch the hole. It just stopped the bleeding. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong, because 7 days later, on a bright, bitter morning, they were back, standing on her porch. My mother, my brother, my father, shivering,
pale,
begging. My mother said, "Please, just open the door." My brother added, "It's not what you think." But I didn't move, because what I thought didn't matter anymore. What I knew was this. They threw me out like garbage. And now I was the only one who could save them. They used to know me as their shame.
Now,
they'll remember me as Elena Carter. I didn't say a word, just stared through the screen door while the wind carved lines through the snow around their shoes. My mother's eyes darted, wild and wet. My brother couldn't look me in the face. And my father, he finally spoke. "Elena," the bank froze everything. I blinked once, slowly, then turned to Grandma Jean. She sat in her rocking chair, holding her Bible like a sword. She didn't flinch, just whispered, "You owe them nothing, baby." They owed me everything, and they knew it. Turns out, while I was risking my life overseas, my family had taken out a second mortgage on the house, my name on the papers, and defaulted. They used the checks I sent home to pay for my brother's college, my mom's cosmetic fixes, and my dad's business debts. And when I came back, I was the legal cosigner for a house they'd already lost. But I still had one card they didn't. The house wasn't foreclosed yet. And my military benefits could stall the process for exactly 60 days. 60 days they desperately needed. "You don't understand," my mom cried, clinging to the porch rail. "We were trying to survive." I tilted my head. "Funny. So was I." My brother stepped forward. "Come on, Elena.
You have a good job now.
Help us. We're family." Family. That word used to mean something. Now it tasted like rust. They never called once while I was deployed. Not even when my leg got blown open in Mosul. But suddenly, when the power's cut off and the sheriff's knocking, now I'm their daughter again? I crossed my arms. "I'll think about it," I said coldly. Their faces lit up. My mother even smiled. But they didn't notice what I didn't say. For who? Because I wasn't thinking about saving them. I was thinking about how to make them feel what I felt that night. How to make their pride rot from the inside out. And when I closed that door, my mother sobbed louder. But Grandma? She just rocked back once and said softly, "Let them drown in the silence they gave you." The next morning, I made a list. Not of forgiveness. Not of plans. A list of consequences. If they wanted my help, they'd have to earn it on my terms. Not because I was cruel, but because they had to feel it. Every single crack in the wall they built between us. I called a meeting at the old community center downtown. Cold metal chairs. No coffee. No smiles. They showed up late. My brother wore a suit, still pretending to be important. My mother dabbed fake tears. My father wouldn't meet my eyes. I slid the paperwork across the table. Sign this. My mother squinted. What is it? A debt contract. You'll repay every dollar you spent from my military deposits. With interest. I've already calculated the total, $143,700. Her jaw dropped. My brother scoffed. This is insane. I leaned forward. You want me to stall foreclosure? You'll work for it. Clean slates cost money. And this time, my name means something. She whispered, but we're your parents. And I was your daughter. When did that matter to you? They went silent. I added one more thing. If I save the house, you're out in 30 days. You forfeit the deed. Grandma's name goes on it, not yours. You don't get to live there. Not now. Not ever. My brother stood. This is blackmail. No, I said calmly. This is survival. The kind you never taught me. They didn't sign that night. But 2 days later, they came back. Pen in shaking hand, my mother signed first. My father followed. My brother slammed the pen down like it betrayed him. And just like that, I owned everything they cared about. But I wasn't finished. I used the GI Bill loopholes to freeze the foreclosure. Put every utility in my name temporarily, and then set deadlines. Electricity? Off in 28 days. Water? 30. The clock had started ticking. But here's what they didn't know. I never planned to keep that house either. Because true revenge isn't giving them back what they lost. It's making sure they know they never deserved it to begin with. Every day after that, they acted like they were walking on a minefield. Because they were. I gave them 30 days to vacate the house. They treated it like a hotel. But I watched everything. From a distance. My brother tried to sweet-talk me. He texted me photos of us as kids, said he missed me. My mother sent voice notes crying, calling me sweetheart, like it wasn't the same mouth that once spat. Loser. And my dad, he stayed quiet. That's when I knew he feared me the most. I didn't respond. Not once. Instead, I scheduled weekly inspections with a realtor friend. Each time they had to let her in, she asked loudly, "When's the final move-out date again?" Their faces turned paler every week. On day 17, my mom called Grandma Jean,
sobbing.
"She's heartless," she said. "We're her family." Grandma replied with the same steel that once raised me.
No.
"I'm her family. You're just the strangers who taught her pain." On day 21, I filed a public notice. I was putting the house up for auction. Proceeds to go to a local veterans shelter. I didn't want the house. I wanted peace. But I also wanted a memory stamped into every inch of their existence. You don't get to ruin someone, then ask them to rebuild you. My brother showed up at Grandma's the next night. "Just give us more time," he pleaded. "We'll pay you back. Mom's not well." I looked him straight in the eyes. "Neither was I when you all shut the door in my face."
He sighed.
"I made mistakes." "No," I said, my voice steady. "You made choices." The door closed again. Day 28 came. I sent the email. Electricity terminated at 6 p.m. Water in 48 hours. Final lockout in 72. At 6:02 p.m., my mom called. Screaming.
Crying.
Blaming. "You're evil," she shouted.
No.
I was done. Done being the afterthought. Done being the soldier without a home. They turned their backs on me when I needed light.
So now,
they could sit in the dark. That night, the temperature dropped to 18 degrees Fahrenheit. No lights. No heat. No comfort. Just silence and the sound of pipes ticking in protest. I didn't drive by. I didn't need to. The power company confirmed the shutoff. I let the silence do the talking. But Grandma Jean? She sat beside me on the couch, knitting like a queen in control of her throne. "Funny thing about cold," she said, her voice soft. "It don't kill you. It reveals you." On day 29, I woke up to a knock on her door. It was my father. No pride. No excuses. He looked older than I remembered, like shame had hollowed him out. "I didn't know they used your name," he muttered. "Your mother handled all that. He trailed off. Cowards always do. You watch them throw me out, I said, and did nothing. He nodded slowly. I know. Then he handed me something, a box. Inside, old letters I sent home from the field. Still sealed. Not one had been opened.
Not one.
My breath caught. My throat clenched. He whispered, She told us they were just you venting, said they didn't matter. But they mattered to me. They were my only way of surviving back then. And they tossed them aside like garbage. Why now? I asked, holding the box like it weighed 1,000 bricks. He looked up, eyes glassy. Because the house is ice cold, and I finally understand what you felt all those years. I didn't comfort him. I didn't scream. I simply closed the door. Sometimes, dignity sounds like wood clicking shut. By nightfall, the sheriff served the final notice. Eviction in 24 hours. The neighbors watched as my brother carried out boxes in the dark. My mother begged him to do something. But there was nothing left to do. The girl they exiled? She owned their ending.
And me?
I sat in Grandma's kitchen, sipping hot tea, watching the steam rise like a quiet victory. Vengeance doesn't always explode. Sometimes it freezes slowly, until the ones who made you feel invisible finally see their own reflection in frost-covered glass. Day 30. Eviction day. They didn't leave quietly. Of course they didn't. The sheriff knocked on the door at 10 a.m. sharp. By 10:07, my mother was screaming about human rights. By 10:10, my brother was arguing with the deputy like logic could erase a signed deed. And by 10:30, their lives were sitting in plastic tubs on the front lawn. I didn't go to the house. I didn't need to. I'd already sent a moving crew. Not to help them, but to remove the last thing I ever cared about inside that place. A photo album. Me and Grandma Jean. My real family. Everything else? Let it rot. By noon, the neighbors gathered like flies. Whispering. Recording. Some pretended to help. Most didn't. Because when you've played the victim for years and suddenly get exposed, people don't rush in. They observe. Let them. At 2 p.m., my brother texted me, This is cruel. You're humiliating us. I replied with one line. You did that to me first. Later that night, I drove by once. Just once. Not to gloat. To witness the moment my silence became louder than their years of dismissal. My mother sat on the porch, wrapped in a blanket she used to call ugly. Now it was all she had. My father leaned against a suitcase, eyes sunken. And my brother? He stared at the for sale sign like it was written in fire. I parked half a block down, watched as the moving truck pulled away, empty. They were staying in a motel now. One of those hourly rate ones near the highway. I knew because I'd booked the room. One night. Prepaid. No more. This was the price of pretending someone doesn't exist until you need them. This was justice written not in rage but in patience. I didn't wave. Didn't honk. Didn't cry. I just turned the ignition, slowly drove off, and left them exactly where they left me that Christmas night. Outside. Alone. In the cold. A week passed. They didn't call again. No more texts. No more guilt. Just the echo of their silence. And this time, it was mine to enjoy. I bought a small house near the edge of town. Nothing fancy. 2 bedrooms. A red door. Peaceful. Grandma Jean moved in with me. She brought her tea tins, her rocking chair, and the kind of laughter that sounds like healing. We painted the living room together. Yellow. Like sunshine. Because we knew now, warmth isn't found in people who throw you out. It's in the ones who open the door, even when you don't ask. Meanwhile, I heard through town my brother tried getting a job at a tech firm. Didn't pass the background check. Apparently, someone flagged his fake credentials. My mom was living with a friend from church, but word got out. Donations she claimed were for cancer treatment had mysteriously disappeared. My dad? He disappeared too. Probably hiding from the shame he helped build. But I wasn't tracking them. I was rebuilding me. I started mentoring veterans. Taught high schoolers about leadership and survival. I became the voice I never had for others who came home to closed doors. And one afternoon, while setting up a fundraiser, a reporter stopped by. "I heard about the house sale," she said. "How it funded a new shelter. People are calling you a quiet hero." I shook my head. "I'm not a hero," I said. "I'm just someone who got tired of being erased." She smiled. "Sometimes the quietest people leave the loudest mark." That night, I sat with Grandma on our porch. We drank hot cider, watched the stars. She looked at me and said, "You turn their cruelty into kindness. That's power, baby." And for once, I believed it, because I realized something. Forgiveness isn't about letting them back in. It's about walking past the wreckage and never needing to look back. I didn't get revenge with fire or fury. I did it with a whisper, a closed door, and the strength to never knock on theirs again. It was a Sunday morning when the knock came.
Soft.
Hesitant. Familiar. I opened the door slowly, not afraid, just curious. It was my brother. He looked small. Not in size, but in presence. Like life had finally pressed him down to human level. He held a crumpled paper bag, eyes barely meeting mine. "I brought muffins," he said. "From Mom. She said you used to like lemon poppy." I didn't move. Didn't reach for the bag. He cleared his throat. "She's sick. Real this time. Hospital said stage 2 liver failure. No insurance. No backup." I stayed quiet. He blinked. "She's sorry. Is she?" I asked calmly. "Or just out of options again?" He had no answer. That silence, it was familiar now. And this time, I let it stretch. Finally, he added, "Dad's gone. Left in January. We don't know where. And me? I'm trying." I studied his face. The guilt was real. Maybe even the effort was too. But my forgiveness wasn't something you collect like a final paycheck. I opened the door a little wider. He stepped forward, hopeful, until I held out my hand.
Not to pull him in. To stop him.
"You're not welcome here," I said gently. "Not yet. Maybe not ever." His face crumpled, but he didn't argue. Instead, he placed the bag on the porch, nodded once, and turned. No tantrum. No begging. Just quiet acceptance. I closed the door and stood there, hand resting on the wood, breathing. Then I tossed the muffins in the trash. That night, I wrote one final letter. Not to them, to myself. A thank you for surviving, for becoming my own home, for learning that sometimes the deepest revenge is never needing theirs again. I lit a candle, said a prayer for peace, not for their healing, but for mine. And I meant it. Then I turned off the porch light, not in anger, but because I no longer needed anyone to find their way back to me. I was already home. Still driving that old car? My cousin Leah said it with her nose wrinkled, like she'd smelled something foul. Her brother Tyler snorted. "Didn't you inherit a whole business? Guess none of it made it to your garage." Laughter erupted around the dinner table. Aimed at me.
Always at me.
My name is Renee. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever been underestimated so deeply that your success felt like betrayal to the people who should have celebrated you? I stared down at my plate. Dried chicken, overcooked rice, and humiliation served fresh. It was a family dinner at Aunt Diane's house, and I already regretted showing up. The same house I used to mow the lawn for as a teenager while they sipped lemonade and told me maybe college wasn't for everyone. Now they sat around me in new watches and old mindsets, still convinced that I was the black sheep who never made it out of the dirt. And when Leah made that comment about my car, I just smiled gently and shrugged. "It runs fine," I said. "She probably doesn't know what a car payment feels like," Tyler added, elbowing his cousin like they were tag-teaming a comedy routine. And maybe they thought I'd bite back. Maybe they wanted me to snap, to lose composure, to prove I was still the outsider. But I didn't, because I had something better than a comeback. Just then, my phone buzzed in my purse. I glanced at it, tapped once, and stood.
"Sorry.
I need to take this." They smirked like I was trying to escape the heat. I stepped just outside onto the veranda. The sun was setting in soft gold. I raised the phone to my ear. "Yes," I said calmly. My assistant's voice came through crisp and clear. Hi, Renee. Just confirming your jet has landed. They've brought the rolls around and pre-cleared customs. We're ready whenever you are. I turned back toward the open window of the dining room.
And paused.
The silence inside was total. I hadn't meant for them to hear. But I hadn't exactly hidden either. When I walked back in, I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. The air had changed. Leah's fork was frozen midair. Tyler blinked like someone had unplugged his brain. Jet, my uncle finally asked, eyes squinting. I just smiled politely and sat back down. Business trip. Early morning. I didn't elaborate. That was the power. Because here's the thing. They thought they knew who I was. That I was the quiet girl with the dusty sedan and hand-me-down handbags. What they didn't know was that I was the CEO of the very company they'd laughed at me for starting. That I owned more real estate than our entire family combined. That the car I drove wasn't because I couldn't afford better. It was because I remembered where I came from and I never wanted to forget. They mocked me for staying grounded. But they were about to learn what it looks like when someone rises in silence. And next, I was going to show them exactly why you never laugh at someone who's still climbing. Because when they reach the top, they remember every word. My cousins always believed that success was inherited, not earned. They grew up in manicured houses with silver spoons and granite countertops. I grew up watching my mom fold diner tips into envelopes labeled rent and electric with the kind of precision that only desperation teaches. My dad disappeared before I turned 7. No note. No warning.
Just gone.
And while my aunt and uncle sent their kids to summer camps and private tennis coaches, I spent my summers babysitting their spoiled children for $4 an hour because, as Aunt Diane once said, it's good for her to learn responsibility. What I learned instead was that love in our family came with conditions. They smiled when you served them, scoffed when you stood on your own. When I was 17, I got into 3 good colleges. Full scholarships. I told the family over dinner one night, heart pounding, eyes sparkling. Leah rolled her eyes.
Wow.
Must be nice when you don't have to pay for it. Uncle Greg added, college doesn't make you successful. It just makes you debt-ridden. My mother was the only one who clapped. Quietly. With tears in her eyes. They mocked me again when I started a company instead of getting a safe job. It was a messy startup. Small-scale logistics for minority-owned food suppliers. Not sexy. Not flashy. Definitely not respectable enough for family barbecues. Tyler laughed when he saw me making deliveries myself. You? Running a business? Thought you were going to be the next Oprah, not UPS. Leah once said, it's kind of embarrassing, isn't it? Like playing entrepreneur? But I kept working. Nights, weekends, holidays. I reinvested every penny. I lived in a studio apartment that was half storage closet. Ate ramen. Lost sleep.
Gained grit.
My mother passed just before I turned 26. Heart failure. Years of overwork and stress finally caught up. She never saw my first warehouse open. But she did leave me a note I found tucked inside her recipe book. They won't see you coming, baby. And when they do, it'll be too late to catch up. I built the company in her name. Emmy Freight Solutions. Her initials. Her legacy. And in 2 years, I turned it into a multi-million-dollar logistics empire. Private fleet. Global contracts. 27 employees.
But I didn't tell the family.
Why would I? They had already decided who I was. The girl with the sad backstory, a used car, and unrealistic dreams. I let them believe it. Let them joke. Let them gawk at my old Corolla with peeling paint and a squeaky window. Because to them, that car was proof I hadn't made it.
But to me,
that car was the steering wheel I gripped every night when I cried behind the wheel after 14-hour shifts. It was the front seat where I'd read my mother's note over and over. It was the one constant reminder that I was still moving forward, even when it felt like the world was driving past me. They saw rust. I saw roots. And when that assistant's call came through at dinner, it wasn't a flex. It was a reminder that I didn't owe them explanations, just consequences. After that dinner, everything shifted. Not for me, I was already living in my truth, but for them. My cousins, my aunt, my uncle, suddenly they were curious. I'd spent years being invisible in this family.
But now?
I was a headline they couldn't stop clicking. 3 days after the dinner, Leah sent me a message on Instagram. Hey girl. Didn't know you were flying private these days, lol. Smiling face with heart eyes, we should totally catch up. Tyler posted a story the same day. A boomerang of him holding a cup of espresso at some pop-up cafe with the caption, Grind time briefcase, manifesting boss vibes fire. He'd never posted about work before. That's when it hit me. It wasn't the jet that shook them. It was the fact that I'd passed them by and never told them. I wasn't bragging. I wasn't flashing my wealth. I wasn't begging for validation. And that silence made them desperate to know more. They had lived their entire lives believing wealth meant power and power meant control. That they were the standard to be measured by. But I'd walked right past them, quietly, completely, and they hadn't seen it coming.
So now?
They were scrambling. And then something happened that confirmed just how much it was eating at them. I got a call from a supplier who'd referred me to a new client. A boutique grocer in another city. Great lead. But the conversation took a strange turn. The manager said, One of your cousins? I think his name was Tyler?
He reached out to us last week.
Said you recommended him. But his numbers were off. And he couldn't explain how his logistics worked. I froze. Tyler was trying to use my name. I thanked the manager, hung up, and sat there for a long minute. He didn't congratulate me. He didn't apologize for mocking me. He didn't even ask me directly. He just tried to steal a piece of what I'd built and hoped I wouldn't find out. But I did. And it didn't stop there. Over the next week, 2 more people messaged me about family members name-dropping ME Freight. Leah had apparently pitched a fake consulting service to a local boutique using my company's portfolio as her past experience. She was presenting my warehouses, my deliveries, my hard work as hers. That's when it stopped being annoying and became personal. They hadn't just dismissed me. They were now trying to cash in on the image they once laughed at. The girl they called a failure? Now, suddenly, she was their golden ticket. But they'd forgotten something important. You can't steal from someone who's already 2 steps ahead. So I started tracking everything. Screenshots, emails, voice notes, fake invoices. Not to retaliate. To prepare. Because I knew exactly how this story ended. They wanted to wear my success like a costume. But I was about to show them the price of pretending to be someone you once tried to bury. They played small games. I was about to make a big move. And the only thing better than rising is rising while they're still trying to figure out how you did it. I could have called them out publicly. Could have embarrassed them the way they tried to embarrass me all my life. But that would have given them something they didn't deserve. Attention. Instead, I chose something quieter, sharper, more permanent. First, I called my legal team. ME Freight had a small but powerful legal department. 2 brilliant women who had seen this kind of thing before. I laid it all out. The name-dropping, the fake pitches, the way Leah and Tyler were using our brand to sell themselves to clients. My team moved fast. Cease and desist letters were drafted within hours. But I didn't send them. Not yet. I wanted to watch them dig deeper first. So I played dumb. I replied to Leah's Instagram message. Sure. We should catch up soon. Let me know when you're free. She bit instantly. Within a day, she invited me to coffee. Just us girls. We met at a trendy cafe, where she wore designer shades and talked like we were old friends who hadn't been emotionally distant for 2 decades. She asked questions. Too many. So, what's your average profit margin? What kind of software do you use for scheduling? Are your trucks diesel or hybrid? Just curious. I smiled through all of it. Gave vague answers. Watched her brain spin behind her fake lashes. Then she said it. Tyler and I are thinking of starting something similar. You'd be so proud. We even mocked up a little proposal. Wanna see? She handed me her phone. There it was, my logo, my trucks, even a photo of one of my warehouses. Photoshopped into a mock pitch deck with her name on the cover. I looked up, stunned at her audacity. She mistook it for awe. I left that meeting with everything I needed. That night, I sent the cease and desist notices to both of them. Certified mail. Legal headers. Real consequences. I didn't write them myself, but if I had, they would have started with, "You should have thought twice before mocking the woman whose playbook you're now trying to plagiarize." The next day, I filed formal trademark infringement notices. My company's brand, its name, even the color palette, fully protected. Their fake documents were now grounds for action. But the most satisfying piece of the puzzle? I called the boutique grocer Leah had pitched, and I booked them myself. Offered them better rates.
Quicker turnaround.
A dedicated liaison. They signed the contract within 48 hours. Leah lost her fake client before she even got started. Tyler's story unraveled just as quickly. A partner he'd tried to rope in for a new delivery startup backed out the moment he got the legal notice. His rep was burned before the website even went live. The cousins who once laughed at my rusted car now had to sit in rooms and explain how they'd impersonated the very woman they once called embarrassing. And me? I said nothing.
Didn't post about it.
Didn't gloat. Because real power doesn't shout. It moves quietly, like a tide rising while they're still building castles in the sand. And when it hits, they drown in their own disbelief. They tried to copy the brand. But I am the brand. And this was only the beginning. By the time the legal notices reached their doors, the group chat exploded. I wasn't in it, obviously, never had been. But my cousin Tara, the only one with a conscience, sent me screenshots. The panic in their texts was everything I expected and more. Tyler. Bro, is she serious? We're family. Leah. She didn't have to go nuclear. It was just a mock-up.
Tara.
Y'all literally tried to steal her company's image. She just protected her work, like any boss would. They weren't mad because I embarrassed them. They were mad because I didn't warn them. Because I didn't play the role I was born into, the quiet, grateful girl from the struggling branch of the family tree. The one who took jokes and served casseroles and kept her head down. They didn't expect me to fight back. And they never expected me to win. Tyler tried damage control first. He emailed me, full of typos and backpedaling. Hey, cuz, total misunderstanding on the whole logistics thing. Just experimenting with a few ideas. Didn't mean any harm. Hope we can just forget this. I replied once. Thanks for reaching out. My legal team will take it from here. All the best. No smiley face. No warmth. Just corporate precision. Leah went silent. Not a single word. But a week later, I heard through the grapevine she'd canceled a brunch business meeting with 3 boutique owners because her name was now flagged for misrepresentation.
One of them was my client now.
Meanwhile, my actual business? Thriving. Our expansion was ahead of schedule. I just signed a deal with a luxury food brand for a 5-year transport partnership. I was speaking at 2 conferences that fall, one about women-led entrepreneurship, the other about corporate identity theft and how to protect your brand. Irony? Delicious. But the final blow didn't come from me. It came from my grandmother. She called a family dinner. Another one. Same long table. Same 4 smiles. I almost didn't go. But something told me this one would be different. When I walked in, I noticed the energy immediately. Quieter. Uneasy. Grandma stood at the head of the table with her cane, and as soon as everyone was seated, she spoke. I want to say something, she said. About Renee. You could hear a pin drop. She started with nothing. She buried her mother too young. And not one of you helped her when she was working double shifts and building something from the ground up. No one looked at me. I heard how some of you laughed. I saw how you talked down to her. And now you want pieces of what she built? You're not family. You're opportunists. Leah turned red. Tyler shifted uncomfortably. And let me be clear, Grandma added. The next time I hear anyone mock her or try to steal from her again, you won't be invited back to this table. Silence.
Tense. Burning.
Beautiful. I didn't say a word that night.
I didn't need to.
Because everything they thought I wasn't, powerful, respected, untouchable, was sitting right in front of them. They used to think I didn't belong at that table.
But now?
I owned the table, and the room knew it. After Grandma's speech, the shift became permanent. Tyler stopped showing up to family events. His pride couldn't handle the spotlight turning away from him. Leah, on the other hand, kept coming, but the glint in her eye was gone. She barely spoke to me, and when she did, her voice was tight, controlled. Like she knew that one wrong word might crack the last shred of dignity she had left. But the fallout didn't stop with them. Their parents, my aunt and uncle, began to feel it too. Clients in their small real estate business started pulling out. A few cited brand confusion after seeing Leah's fake proposals floating around online. Word travels fast in tight professional circles. And in our community, reputation is currency. They tried to spin it, of course. Claimed they were restructuring or focusing on family more. But the truth leaked out in whispers and side eyes. They used Renee's company logo, tried to pass off her fleet as their own, after mocking her for years. It wasn't just embarrassing. It was pathetic. I stayed silent. I posted nothing, said nothing. But the irony echoed through every interaction. At events, people gravitated toward me, not them. At church, people whispered praises about how far I'd come. Even the cousins who used to ignore me now smiled a little too brightly and asked, "So, how's business?" They weren't curious. They were terrified of being next. And Tyler? He finally reached out again. But this time, it wasn't an email. It was a typed letter on actual paper, dropped off at the front desk of my company headquarters.
Renee?
I messed up. Big time. I let my ego convince me I could fake what you built. And now everything I was building is gone before it even started. I'm sorry I ever laughed at you. If you ever need anything, I owe you. Big time.
T.
I read it once, then folded it, and filed it away in a drawer labeled unpaid debts. Because I didn't need his apology to heal. The collapse was never about revenge. I didn't need to burn anything down. I just needed to stand. And the second I did, they began to sink in the hole they dug for me. Meanwhile, my own life bloomed. I opened a second headquarters in Atlanta, hired more women into leadership, launched a mentorship program for young entrepreneurs from underserved communities, kids like I used to be. And every time I got in my old car, that little beat-up Corolla, I smiled. I still drove it. Not out of necessity. Out of principle. Because the engine that once carried me through sleepless nights still ran like it had something to prove. Just like me. So while they scrambled to rebuild what they never really had, I expanded in silence. One contract at a time. One flight at a time. One legacy at a time.
And they?
They were stuck where they started. Mocking shadows. Watching the girl they underestimated become the woman they couldn't reach. 6 months later, I stood in the hangar beside my private jet as the wind whipped through my coat and my assistant checked her clipboard with precision. Across the tarmac, a team of new hires unloaded product samples headed to our partners overseas. From a beat-up Corolla to a fleet of trucks and air freight? Yeah, we had come a long way. But my rise wasn't built on revenge. It was built on memory. I remembered the nights my mother cried silently at the kitchen table when rent was due. I remembered the pitying looks from family as I poured punch at their parties, knowing full well I was there to serve, not belong. I remembered every eye roll, every "still driving that thing?" jab, every dismissal that turned my silence into fuel.
And now?
I had carved a life from that silence. Not loud, not flashy, just solid. My logistics company had surpassed $20 million in contracts. We'd expanded into South America, developed eco-friendly transport solutions, and partnered with 2 international nonprofit orgs to ship medical supplies to disaster zones, at cost. Impact. Legacy. Not just profit. Meanwhile, the house I lived in now, paid in full. It wasn't a mansion by choice. 3 bedrooms, full garden, custom kitchen design from scratch.
Warm.
Quiet.
Mine.
But the most important place in that house? The wall in my home office. One photo, framed in gold. Me and my mother, standing beside that old Corolla, both of us laughing. She was holding a manila envelope labeled in corporation papers. She never lived to see the company take off. But she saw the beginning. And that's what mattered. Once a month, I host a dinner. Not for family. For the women I mentor. Young, fierce, underestimated women who remind me of myself at 19. They come with ideas, notebooks, nervous laughs. I watch them closely, how they talk about their dreams with disclaimers, like they've been told to be realistic too many times. And I tell them the same thing every time. They'll laugh at your rust. They'll roll their eyes at your silence. But when your jet lands, they'll pretend they were cheering all along. At one of those dinners, Tara, my one cousin who never turned her back, pulled me aside. "You know," she said, "they still talk about you. Whisper your name like a warning." I smiled.
Good, I said.
Because I wasn't their cautionary tale anymore. I was the consequence. And as I sipped my wine that night, surrounded by laughter, hope, and the hum of futures being built, I realized something. Success isn't just measured in dollars. It's measured in who you lift with you, in how you rise without stomping and teach others how to climb. They tried to mock me into silence. Instead, they watched me turn that silence into a platform. And now, they're still sitting at that dinner table, while I'm rewriting the menu. A year to the day after that infamous family dinner, Aunt Diane hosted another one. Same table, same roast chicken, same crystal glasses clinking under dim lighting. But this time, I didn't sit at the far end, waiting to be acknowledged. I wasn't even planning to go. I had a ticket booked for Tokyo, business class, not private jet this time. I liked to remind myself what it felt like to move among people instead of above them. But Grandma called the night before.
Come.
Not for them. For me.
So I did.
I wore the same coat they once called plain. Minimal makeup. No jewelry. Just me, still and solid. When I walked in, the room stilled. Leah glanced up from her phone. Tyler looked down at his plate. Uncle Greg offered a stiff nod. Aunt Diane tried her usual smile. "Look who made it." I smiled back, gentle but unreadable. We ate in near silence. No one mocked my car. No one asked about my business. But not out of respect. Out of fear. Because they knew I wasn't the story anymore. I was the ending. After dessert, Grandma stood. "I just want to say something," she said, voice trembling but proud. "A year ago, someone at this table made a joke. A joke they thought was harmless. About an old car. About a young woman. And today, that woman has done more for this family's name than anyone here." Everyone went still.
She turned to me.
"Renee, I'm proud of you. Not because you're rich, but because you remembered who you were when they tried to make you forget." I blinked back tears. And for the first time in a long time, I felt seen. After dinner, I walked to the driveway. My old Corolla still parked right where I left it. A dent near the back, faded hood, engine still humming like a fighter. Leah passed me on her way out. She looked at the car, then at me. "You still driving that thing?" she asked, no laughter this time. Just genuine disbelief. I turned slowly. "No," I said. She blinked. "I choose to drive it." Her mouth opened slightly, but no words came. I got into the driver's seat, rolled the window down. "You mocked me for staying grounded," I said softly. "But you know what the sky teaches you when you fly alone?" She stayed silent. That not everyone deserves to rise with you. Then I drove off. And as I turned the corner, I felt a strange peace. Because I hadn't destroyed them. I didn't need to. They were living in the ruins of their own arrogance.
While I
was flying. Not because of spite. But because I built wings from the very rust they laughed at. They mocked the car. But the car never broke down. I didn't either. And the silence that followed my takeoff was the sound of them realizing they never saw the driver coming.